Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever walked into a place and immediately felt like you didn't belong? Like the locals were eyeing you with suspicion, their conversations suddenly quieting as you passed? Maybe you've moved to a new town, only to realize that no matter how friendly you are, people just won't accept you. Well, in some parts of the United States, that's not just your imagination, it's a way of life. Some states are fiercely protective of their culture, their land, and their people. They don't just dislike outsiders, they resent them. They see newcomers as invaders, people who disrupt the balance, drive up home prices, bring in unwanted changes, and just don't fit in. But which states are the worst offenders? Which places roll up the welcome mat the moment they see an out-of-state license plate? You might be surprised. Some of these states might even be places you've considered moving to. Before we dive into the list, smash that like button so we can keep making more deep dives like this, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into 10 U.S. states that absolutely hate outsiders. First up, we're heading to the wide-open spaces of Wyoming. Wyoming is the least populated state in the country, with just over 580,000 people spread across vast stretches of land. Life here is rugged and independent, and locals take pride in their self-sufficiency. People from Wyoming often dislike outsiders, especially those moving in from big cities with different political or cultural views. There's a strong sense of leave us alone in this state, and people don't take kindly to outsiders trying to change their way of life. Californians, in particular, get a cold reception. Many Wyoming residents feel that people moving in from states like California bring different values, push for changes in policies, and drive up real estate prices. This resentment has led to some direct confrontations, with signs in rural areas reading things like, "Don't California my Wyoming." Locals may give cold stares, ignore outsiders in bars, or refuse to engage in small talk if they think someone is an out-of-stater. Our next stop is West Virginia, a state known for its rugged beauty, its coal mining heritage, and a certain sense of resilience. West Virginia is an isolated and deeply traditional state. It's a place where family ties go back generations, and people don't easily trust newcomers. Many West Virginians have a strong sense of community and see outsiders as people who don't understand their way of life. Historically, outsiders have come into West Virginia, often for resource extraction, like coal mining, and then left, taking wealth with them while leaving the state in economic distress. This has led to a deep-seated mistrust of outsiders, who show up with big promises but don't stick around to face the consequences. If you move to West Virginia, don't expect an immediate warm welcome. Locals are friendly but guarded, and earning their trust takes years. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to Big Sky Country, Montana. Much like Wyoming, Montana has a fiercely independent streak. The state has seen a wave of new residents, particularly from states like California and Washington, and locals aren't happy about it. The influx of wealthier newcomers has driven up housing prices, making it harder for native Montanans to afford homes in their own communities. Montanans express their dislike for outsiders in various ways. In small towns, people will outright refuse to engage with newcomers or make them feel unwelcome at local businesses. There have even been reports of vandalism targeting vehicles with out-of-state license plates. Many longtime residents believe that outsiders are changing the culture too fast, making the state feel more like a vacation home for the wealthy rather than the Montana they grew up in. Get ready to cozy up, because we're heading to Vermont, a state known for its charming small towns and vibrant fall foliage. Vermonters are proud of their state's natural beauty. At first glance, Vermont seems like a peaceful and progressive state, full of charming towns and beautiful landscapes. But Vermont residents are incredibly protective of their way of life and deeply suspicious of outsiders, especially those moving in from out of state. Vermont has a term for outsiders: flatlanders. This term refers to anyone not originally from Vermont, and it carries a negative connotation. Many Vermonters see outsiders as people who come in, buy property, drive up costs, and try to impose their own ways of living. The state has even seen protests and heated town hall meetings where locals express their anger at new transplants. Some residents have gone as far as putting up signs telling outsiders to go back to where they came from. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're venturing to the last frontier, Alaska. Alaska is known for being remote, extreme, and independent. The people who choose to live there do so because they love isolation, and they don't want outsiders interfering with their way of life. Alaskans are notoriously private, and they often don't appreciate newcomers who don't understand how things work. Outsiders who move to Alaska expecting conveniences or trying to change local customs will find themselves quickly frozen out, both literally and socially. Many Alaskans won't go out of their way to be friendly, and if they see you as an outsider trying to make changes, they'll be vocal about their disapproval. All right, we've already covered some states that aren't exactly rolling out the red carpet for newcomers, but I want to hear from you. Do you agree with this list so far? Have you ever visited or moved to a state where you felt like an outsider? Maybe you're from one of these states and have some inside stories to share. Drop them in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know what other topics you'd love to see in a future video. Maybe a deep dive into the friendliest states in America? Or perhaps a list of states where outsiders are moving in the fastest? Your feedback helps shape this channel. Make sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on what's coming next. Now let's get back into it, because trust me, the next states on this list take their dislike for outsiders to a whole new level. Get ready to embrace the motto, "Don't mess with Texas," because we're heading to the Lone Star State. Texas is a land of pride, tradition, and independence, and many native Texans don't take kindly to outsiders, particularly those from states like California and New York. The saying, "Don't California my Texas," has become common in recent years, reflecting a deep resentment toward newcomers bringing different political and social values. Many Texans believe that outsiders come in, drive up real estate prices, and try to change laws and policies that have been long established. There's also a strong sense of state identity, and some locals see outsiders as people who just don't get what it means to be a true Texan. If you move there, expect to be questioned about your roots, and don't expect immediate acceptance. We're heading next to South Dakota, a state known for its iconic landmarks and wide-open spaces. South Dakota is another state where outsiders aren't always welcomed with open arms. Many residents have a fiercely conservative mindset, and they don't take kindly to outsiders who bring different political or social views. The rural nature of the state means that communities are very tight-knit, and stepping into them as an outsider can feel like walking into a private club where you don't belong. One of the biggest points of contention is the influx of new residents from liberal states. Many locals feel that outsiders bring values and policies that clash with South Dakota's traditional culture. If you're not from there, expect to be met with skepticism, especially if you start pushing for changes that don't align with local beliefs. Get ready for some spud-tacular scenery, because we're heading to Idaho, a state known for its stunning mountain ranges and abundance of potatoes. Idaho has seen a massive influx of people from states like California, Oregon, and Washington, and many locals are furious about it. Housing prices have skyrocketed, traffic has increased, and small towns are changing fast. This has led to strong anti-outsider sentiment, with locals openly expressing their frustration at newcomers. Signs like "Go back to California" have popped up, and some Idaho residents have even confronted newcomers directly, telling them they're not welcome. Online forums are filled with complaints about transplants ruining the state, and some communities have become openly hostile toward outsiders moving in. Grab your lobster bibs and your warmest sweaters, because we're heading to Maine, a state known for its rugged coastline, where the Atlantic Ocean meets rocky shores in a dramatic display of nature's beauty. But if you weren't born there, you might never feel fully accepted. The term "from away" is commonly used to describe outsiders, and it's not always a term of endearment. Even if you've lived in Maine for 20 years, if you weren't born there, you're still an outsider. Maine has a deep-rooted culture that values tradition and local connections. Many small towns are generations old, and locals aren't interested in outsiders who don't respect the way things have always been. If you try to suggest changes or bring in new ideas, you might be met with passive-aggressive resistance, cold stares, or simply ignored. It's a place where fitting in takes decades, not just a friendly attitude. Get ready to embrace the wide-open spaces, because we're heading to North Dakota, a state known for its vast prairies, rolling hills, and endless skies. This is a place where the horizon seems to stretch on forever, and the beauty of the natural landscape is truly breathtaking. North Dakota is sparsely populated, and the people who live there tend to be reserved and slow to warm up to newcomers. The state has a culture built on self-reliance and hard work, and there's a belief that outsiders often don't understand what it takes to live there. Out-of-staters moving in can be met with polite but distant treatment. People might be friendly on the surface, but don't expect an invitation to their homes or a quick entrance into their social circles. Many North Dakotans believe that outsiders don't stick around long enough to truly become part of the community, so they don't make an effort to welcome them right away. And there you have it, 10 U.S. states that make it loud and clear they don't want outsiders moving in. Were you surprised by any of the states on this list, or maybe you think I left one out? Let me know in the comments. I'm always reading what you guys have to say. And if you've ever experienced that cold shoulder treatment as an outsider, I want to hear your story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps more people find the channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.